Welcome to the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast, where we bring you a weekly dose of powerlifting news, tips, and training advice with a touch of 80s rock ballads. This podcast is presented by Team Roar Powerlifting, your source of the most comprehensive coaching and meet day preparation. Here are your hosts, Josh Rohr and Lara Sturm.
All right, welcome to the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast. I am one of your hosts, Lara Sturm.
And I'm Josh Rohr. Welcome to episode 72. So we are down to the final four, moving on to the championship round of the top 5 hype songs. This past week, we had Jeremy Hartman against Mike Haffenbrack, and moving on to the finals, Uncle Jeremy Hartman with 68% of the votes. Our other matchup was Stacy Metcalf against Jenna Weinstein, and moving on to the finals to face Uncle Jeremy is Jenna Weinstein. Don't forget the winner of that does get an A7 $50 gift card. So don't forget to vote on Sunday. So joining us to make their case for why you should vote for them is Jenna and Jeremy. Welcome to the shit show of an episode we're about to have.
Thanks for having me.
Excited to be here again, man. I'm ready to go.
All right. So we're going to start with this. So Jenna, I'm gonna let you go first. You're gonna each make a case for why people should vote for you on Sunday for your playlist. So Jenna, you can start.
Awesome. Okay. Well, so I put a lot of thought into my playlist actually, and I know it was asking for what's like the best hype up music for like PR lifting, and I don't do well with just one style of music. So if anybody's been following my playlist, it's super eclectic and it's structured in a way that builds you up to hitting a PR. So Janis Joplin Crybaby is what's playing in like the early warm-up phase of my lift. And then I move on to Mulan's Make a Man Out of You, because now I'm getting revved up. I'm probably at around like 75, 80% of my 1 rep max and feeling more confident. And then we go into Blink 182. And that's getting my heart rate up a little bit more. That's getting me more excited to lift. I'm zoning in a lot more now. And then we get into Chop Suey by System of a Down. And that's where I'm like hitting like my last lift before my PR, because I want to get like all that excited energy, like pumping and flowing really good. And then I don't want to be like capping out with my energy when I PR. I want to be more like focused and dialed in. So that's why Queen, Don't Stop Me Now is my final song for lifting that 1 rep max. Cause you can't not be in a good mood when you're listening to that song. And I think the words, Don't Stop Me Now, how could you bail out on a lift when Freddie Mercury is just serenading you to not stop? So that's my logic for my playlist. And anybody who just loves a little bit of randomness in their playlist, I think they're gonna identify with that.
All right. So there's a couple points I want to touch on here. The randomness I like.
Yeah.
I do like the argument of it's what works for you. I think that's a good one. And I do very much, this is one thing I'm a big fan of, is having a system, right? You don't just have 100% hype music playing 100% of the time. You burn out too quick. I like your levels. I think it's a very interesting strategy, and I approve of the logic. Laura, what are your thoughts?
I like it, and I like having the last song be Queen, because that's how can you not PR to that song?
How can you not? How can you not? Yeah. So on my like really heavy training days, there's usually a lot of Queen, maybe some AC/DC playing there. But if I know I'm going for like a weight that I haven't hit too much or too well, and I'm going to play Queen in the background, and that's what's going to help me feel even more confident. So
awesome. Yeah. All right. So your opponent next week, or this coming week, I guess, is Uncle Jeremy. So Jeremy, what's your take us through your playlist and make an argument for it?
Yeah. 2 things, Josh: diversification and history. Those are my 2 arguments.
Oh, he's going deep with this one.
We're going deep, Josh. Do you have my list in front of you?
I can pull it up.
You don't even know your list, man. You're out
there.
there.
Your list.
No, because Josh, there's a reason why, and Josh will know when he reads it off. Okay, Jenna. So just you've had your chance. Go ahead and mute yourself. And I'll step up here.
Ooh.
No, each one of these has had something important, and even some of the lifters that are around me all the time, because I'm training just like Josh. I got a good group of athletes, good group of powerlifters I'm always having. They kind of know when when a song comes on, or if I really need to have something, there's history behind it. I like a variety of stuff too, and just going throughout all the years, there's certain things that can kind of trigger you. So even though I'm not competing anymore, but just when I'm around my athletes and trying to lead by example, sometimes that I have some of that stuff available on there, and Josh is one on there for one of the reasons too. So,
All right,
Josh, why don't you start us off, and I'll tell you which one belongs to part of our history as well.
Okay, so we have Jeremy has number 5, DMX, Rough Riders Anthem. Number 4, Otherwise Soldiers.
Yeah, let's start right from there. So we'll start with number 5. Go ahead and read that one again for everybody.
Okay, DMX, Rough Riders Anthem.
I mean, you got to have it. I mean, my man Earl died those last couple of years. Like, I love that guy, what he did. I mean, who else can bark at a song and sell millions of records back and forth? That song, his CDs that I still have, Josh, singles, the whole mix, everything like that. That was just something that was one of my college songs that when I was around all my lifters and everything that we just had that kind of got us going. When it's either DMX day or if we were in the mood for, hardcore metal, whatever we had, it was just something that we all liked. So it brings me back to my college days of lifting. And, from the team I had at Bowling Green State University and the team you had at Ashland, those lifters were very sentimental, very important part of our lives. And that was kind of one of our songs that kind of triggered us all and kind of got us in the mood for lifting that day.
Yep. Number 4, Otherwise Soldiers.
This was one, this goes back to my first group of lifters I had when I had Jenica Baldridge, Chloe Dublin, Shelby Miles. I actually went to one of their concerts when I first moved to Indianapolis about 10 years ago. And just as I was starting my lifting team, these guys had come in, never heard of their group. They were kind of an opening band and just kind of like rocked it. And I was amazed. I hung out with the guy afterwards, Josh. He worked out. He shaved his head. I actually wrote his deadlift training for 6 months for free. And he gave me free tickets the next time he came into Indianapolis. We got backstage passes. We did a little bit of everything. And I started playing that song over and over and got my whole entire Franklin Community High School involved with it. They knew who Otherwise were. So that was something that we kind of played when it was some big time music in the Franklin Community High School, and I was a strength coach for the whole school and those lifters that I had when I first started.
Dang. Okay, number 3, Fort Minor, Remember the Name.
This goes back to both of us, Josh. This is why you're included on this one. Just because you built a name brand over there in Georgia for yourself. I was always very proud of what you did with your lifters and creating Team Roar out of nothing. When you decide, hey, I'm moving to Atlanta, I'm going to be a personal trainer. I'm like, you're what, Josh? You're like, yeah. And you were just kind of like, and then all of a sudden I saw Team Roar shirts and it's just like kind of remember the name, and I wanted to put my name on my shirt too. So that was just kind of something that you inspired me a little bit with what you were creating in Georgia. And when I think about that, I think about some of our good times training together and helping each other out with coaching with everything.
So I don't think I know that song. Can you sing a little bit of it?
No. Next question.
All right. Number 2, Rob Zombie, Dracula.
This goes back to my own training.
Not Dracula.
I said Dragula.
Thank you.
Dragula.
All right.
Did I say Dracula or whatever? Doesn't matter.
I said Dracula.
Laura's got your back as always.
Somebody's got to keep this thing in line.
I know. Gosh. So, no, that was one thing for me. That was the one guy I trained with. It was the first guy I ever got to train with who was completely stronger than me and just destroyed me when I was starting to enter the men's open division in powerlifting. And that guy had a big inspiration on me from more of a motivation side, someone I kind of looked up to. And his go-to songs were all Rob Zombie. That's all we had, with a little CD player in the corner of his basement that I trained and listened to for, 4 years when I competed in the open. So that was something that always brings back memories of training with him.
And you're number 1, Motorhead, The Game.
The Game. Hopefully this goes back to, again, this has something to do with Josh. He probably doesn't remember because he was helping me out and then he decided to help somebody else out in the meantime. But it's okay, Josh. I'll forgive you for this one. This is what we got to choose for the first time with powerlifting, when we got to go on the GNC Pro Deadlift and lifters actually got to choose their hype songs. And all I could think about that was, it's time to turn it on. It's time to play the game. And Josh was over there helping me out, called out a few numbers, although he left me a little bit. He does remember, but I do, Josh. It's okay. So, no, that was just, I know. No, that was like the coolest thing, because we got into be like on GNC Pro stage at the Arnold and being that big deadlift event. That was just something that's kind of always stuck with me, because I don't know, that's just kind of the thing that pumped me up during one of my deadlifts. And that's the one I picked to go out there. And that's one of my coolest memories, because you're in front of thousands of people. It's like, for powerlifting, you don't really make it. There's not much, hype you can get. I mean, you can get some followers and stuff here and there, but that was something that was very special to me, to kind of go out there, compete, and be one of the best deadlifters around.
Cool. So, all right, Laura, first thoughts on Jeremy's explanation. And
I just like how they're all very personal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what, when you connect to music, that's what it's all about anyway.
Yeah. I think I'm not going to lie. I was expecting far less from both of you on the explanation.
Josh, how many times did I send you a list back and forth? I remade mine like 4 or 5 times when I was messaging you because things kept popping up in my head like, hey, this means a lot. Hey, this means a lot. We'll switch this up. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yep.
I agree.
Okay.
I mean, I think that shows that as lifters, we are very thoughtful and pensive. I think Jeremy's trying to play the heartstrings card a little bit, and he's being more strategic than anything with this playlist, and just saying like, "Oh, I know Josh will like this song, so Josh will vote for me," rather than maybe being truthful in what songs truly hype him up. That's the sense I'm getting from your playlist.
So that's interesting. That's an interesting thought, and I think to me it's twofold because hype songs for me do pull on the heartstrings. Like those are the ones that hype me up.
Laura, you ever seen Josh cry?
Yes.
See? Yep. Well, another podcast. That's a whole conversation. We'll talk
I'm
about
not-
later.
That's a whole thing.
I'm
Yeah.
not ashamed of it.
You know.
Got a dub Princess song when doves cry too. When Josh cries.
All right. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Anyway, let's move on.
That is a good list, though, Jeremy. That is a really good list, and it sounds like the way you were describing, like what inspires you in terms of your playlist. You do a lot of lifting with your team or with your athletes, and a lot of what inspired my list is I train by myself in my garage, so I try to pick songs that keep me in it, so that I don't check out in the middle of my lifts. So I try to pick songs that like I could play on repeat over and over again and not get sick of as well. And those are 5 songs that, no matter what, like if I was locked in my garage and I just had to hear those same 5 songs over and over again, it would work just fine for me. So hopefully that's similar for you with your playlist too. That
It's
if you
a little
can only
different.
listen to
I can
those
only
5.
use those songs. I can only use those at certain points because they just get me too hyped up because there's too much behind it. So mine's a little different on there where I have to like save those if I want to, or if one of the kids throws it in, or one of my old lifters kind of knows, you know, like I had my old training partner I hadn't seen in 8 years come up. He was in Indianapolis for the weekend, and we put that on, and that was kind of our send off to our not seeing each other for 8 years and training and hurting each other and being sore for like 3 to 4 days after.
And walked over to the Alico rack and did some curls.
It's always, man, put the fat grips on and go, baby.
Nice. I know what you mean though. There's a song by Eminem that I cannot listen to because it makes me want to flee the building. I get to like,
Yep.
it was my my last deadlift at my first Worlds song, and it worked at the time, but now every time I listen to it, I'm like, oh! My heart just starts beating out of my chest, and I can't listen to it.
Do you remember what you were playing, Laura, when you beat Jen Goudreau, and then Josh was crying and you were crying?
We were all crying.
We were all
Eminem.
crying.
It was
that-
Eminem.
okay. See,
Yeah.
I knew that had something special. I remember Josh telling me that story. That was one of his heartfelt stories about you with everything. And he's like, Laura was crying, I was crying. And then we walked away. So
And Jen was crying. So
yeah,
that
Jen was
felt
crying.
bad, but-
See, maybe I'm a little different. I don't have as much lifting experience as you all. I just wrapped up my 4th meet a couple weeks ago, but when I'm on the platform, I actually don't hear a lot of the background noise and the music that's playing, even if it's really blaring pretty loudly. I tend to just like zone out and just focus only on the barbell. I barely even see like the head judge when I'm on the platform because my tunnel vision gets pretty zoned in there. So I don't even really hear the music much times.
About
Once
4 or
it's loud.
5, about 4 or 5 out is when I usually the music's got to come out. Same thing with my lifters, like, hey, it's time to take your headphones. Some will have it on a little bit longer, and they kind of test the boundaries with me. But as long as they hit their lift and they're good with it, I'm good with them keeping it on till it's time to give a couple final instructions. Then it's go time.
Yeah.
And then there's Josh, who walks people to the platform, takes their earphones, and listens to their song for them
Yeah.
while they're lifting, because he can get in their groove then, which I think is kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, I like it.
It's-
So I do
Gosh.
that for a couple of reasons. One, I'm curious, but 2 is like, depending on what song somebody's listening to, I can kind of tell what they need from me as well. So like if they're just listening to like real chill, kind of whatever music, and that's their vibe, like me getting in their face and screaming at them is not gonna help. On the flip side, if somebody's listening to something real heavy, like then I know I can kind of turn it on a little bit more.
Like slap them, maybe.
I've done that a few times accidentally. Just
Yeah,
happens.
please don't slap me. I don't think that I'm there yet. where I need to be slapped.
Josh, funny story. When we first started going international, we saw all the Russian lifters. I don't know if you remember how they used to do the
Rub the ears.
circulation point. Yeah. So I told my buddy, and we were at just a state meet and Battle of the Great Lakes. Actually, I said, hey, I just got back from our first international competition, and I said, hey, you got to rub my ears. I said, I don't know. I saw the Russians doing it. So Josh, he started rubbing my earlobes, and he didn't know.
I wasn't I was caressing him.
No, not you. It was somebody else.
Oh.
No. You're getting confused again, old man. But he rubbed them so raw, and I didn't want to say anything because it kept like upsetting me in a good way. By the end of the meet, I couldn't, like, my earlobes were like red raw, almost ready to bleed. I said, dude, you're supposed to do it up here. He goes, well, I got freaked out. I didn't know what you wanted. You said do this because the Russians did it. So he goes, I just went ahead and did that. I mean, they were like blood red sore for like almost an entire week.
Nice.
Yeah.
So is that where the whole like ear rubbing thing came from?
Yep. Yep. We saw a lot of the Europeans do it, and they were completely dominant in the early 2000s. So, you know how it is. Lifters see other lifters doing it. So, of course, you know, young Jeremy Hartman, you know, he's got to look out for it. Other lifters started doing, oh, the Russians do it, the Ukrainians do it. So it was a little pressure point, a little circulation thing on there. So, of course, we started doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like it.
I've seen Sherman rub ears.
Sherman does that a lot too.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah, I love it.
No.
Isn't that what they did in Anger Management, like that Adam Sandler movie? When they were getting like too angry, they would rub their earlobes and say like "Goose Brava" because that would actually help them like calm down and focus.
Yeah, maybe.
That was it.
So there might be some. So there probably is something to it. It wouldn't be in an Adam Sandler movie if
Yeah.
it wasn't useful.
Yeah,
It
totally.
was just supposed to be a pressure point, circulation point on there. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
I
All right,
was
so
more
we're gonna go
surprised-
back to. I'm sorry.
No, I was just more surprised that Josh was okay with taking somebody else's earphones and putting them in his own ear. Because you're just like in the time I've known you, like you're a little bit of like standoffish to like touching other people's things. So taking somebody's earphones out of their own ears and putting them into your ears, that I'm surprised.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things like, you know, I have a lot of phobias, I guess, but apparently earphones is not one. Anyway, go ahead, Laura.
All right, Laura, on with the chlorophyll. Go
All
ahead.
right. We're going to go on. So last week's powerlifting situation, we were talking about staying on target, staying focused, disciplined with your training diet. So let's talk a little bit about that and how you both stay focused and disciplined with training and diet throughout the holidays. So go ahead, Jenna.
Holidays are probably different for me. I don't know, like I don't get too caught up in Christmas or anything like that. I think I'm Jewish, so I don't really care. So I don't really do anything on the holidays anyway. And I've competed in bodybuilding, figure before and whatnot. So it's not new to my family or friends that I'm a competitive athlete in some way, shape, or form. So I just don't feel guilty about doing training or eating a certain way if I know it's going to get me closer to my goals. And as long as I know it's healthy for me, it doesn't really throw me off too much. And there's so many things you can cook that you could still enjoy the holidays and not feel like you're missing out. So I think Josh said this in last week's podcast that sometimes people like to use it as an excuse, but I don't know. There's so many options you have nowadays for how you can cook like a fun meal and still not fall off your macros or your eating plan too bad.
Mm-hmm. Great. And Figure Girls Unite. That's when you know you're into competitive dieting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't last very long with it. I think I did like maybe 2 or 3 shows and I was too competitive with the dieting, too competitive.
Yeah, it's pretty hardcore. So Hartman, what do you think? How do you stay on point?
I think it just goes back to your training discipline. I had a great coach tell me one time, he goes, you know, if you're doing other stuff outside of it, he goes, as long as it's not affecting your training, you know, you're good to go. And something I tell my athletes, something I use was just, I knew not to overeat. I knew, you know, I still had whatever I wanted to. I still got my stuff in that I needed. But if it was playing around a workout, like if I had to work out that day or the following day and I knew it was going to affect that workout, then it was just a simple decision that I knew what I needed to eat or if I needed to space it out or not overeat during that time. And that was just something that luckily I had a good coach pass to me and I pass on to my athletes that, you know, if they're getting close to weight, like they should be on point, especially if they're at a, you know, a higher level and it's something that they're working towards everything. I said, it shouldn't affect that. I don't want you coming in here just, you know, kind of groggy or whatever because of this or complaining because you overate. I said, this is the discipline. It's very simple. Just make the right choices, keep it very simple. You know when enough is enough. You know, if you got to kind of maintain weight, like You can have a little bit, but you just know when the time it is on there. And that's just kind of the culture, I guess, that I set for myself and those around me. And that's just keeping it simple is always the best thing on there.
Agree.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, once you know your goals and what you value, it's an easy decision to make.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's a lot of excuses for eating like an asshole, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. People know, just like, what should I eat this? Or like when I talk to I'll explain it to them. I'll give them a little bit, but everybody kind of knows that answer, so it's just being smart about it and make sure it's not affecting your training. So you keep going through that way. There's no excuses when you step on the platform.
I think what gets people around the holidays is not so much them knowing what's good and what's not as smart of a decision for them. It's the pressure they feel from family and friends of like, like you could stay out a little bit later, or you could have like a little bit more food. You could treat yourself a little bit more. And that peer pressure is, I think, what gets to people because they don't want to feel like they're missing out on something. And then it's really easy to feel guilty for making people think that you're not enjoying yourself as much. And I think that's just, people just don't understand. If you're not a strength sport athlete, or if you're not a competitive athlete in a certain field, you just don't understand what it takes. And that's where, as athletes, we have to be willing to educate our family and friends as to why we're doing what we're doing, and try to shed a little bit of light into the journey we're taking, and let them know that we don't feel like we're missing out. And I mean, I'm as disciplined as anybody, but if I truly want to do something, I'm an adult and I could do it if I want to. It's there, like Jeremy said, like I make the decisions I make. And if I'm happy, like saying no to extra food, or just sticking with my meal plan, or prioritizing training first, it's because that decision makes me happier. It's not because I'm being forced to do it. Like I'm not like going to get in trouble if I don't or anything. I'm an adult.
Do what I want.
Yeah, I do what I want. And I listen to Mulan too. What?
Nice. All right. So here's an interesting question for you. So you're competing on Christmas Day, and you must choose one character from any Christmas movie to be your handler, your only handler. You get one and only one. Who do you choose and why? Josh Rohr.
Oh, mine's easy. Uncle Eddie from Christmas Vacation. And here's the reason, because that guy will do anything for you. So like, how it gets in a crowded warm-up room sometimes, like people screwing around and you need to get in to warm up. In Christmas Vacation, Uncle Eddie went and kidnapped Clark Griswold's boss because he wanted him there for Christmas. And without hesitation, he went and did it. So if I need to warm up and I need to do a warm-up set, Uncle Eddie's going to clear out the rack and get me a bar to use. And it's pretty clear he'll do anything for you. So he's a little bit on the crazy side, which you kind of want that too in a hype person. So I think it's kind of best of both worlds with Uncle Eddie. I don't think you can go wrong.
Nice. I like it. All
Definitely
right.
marches to the beat of his own drummer.
Yeah. Jenna, go ahead. Who would you pick?
I actually picked the Grinch from the Jim Carrey movie. Did I steal that from someone? I don't know. Similar logic as what Josh used with Uncle Eddie. I feel like the Grinch is someone who he will put his 100% into what he does. So if he's handling me, he's going to be solely focused on handling me. And it's not his job necessarily to like make me happy during the meet, but to do what needs to be done and to get me to where I need to be. And I'm okay with that. And I also was thinking about that one scene from The Grinch where the Grinch is like talking to his dog and trying to get his dog into character. And he's like, you're Rudolph, you're a reindeer, you're doing this, you're doing that. And that's the kind of like coaching I like, where somebody just gives me very clear, simple instructions. Like, here's what you need to do. Here's what you need to focus on. Just do it and go. Okay. So I don't know. And he does care. Like the Grinch truly does care about you. He just, can't show you that he cares until everything's over and done with. So I think he's one of those people who's like hard to let in, but deep down really cares and wants you to do well.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, Hartman.
All right. I'm going to go with Vince Vaughn from Four Christmases.
Oh, yes.
Okay. And I got my reasons why on this. And when Josh sent me that, I had to think about this for a little bit. And I actually went back and watched the trailer again just because I haven't seen it for a little bit and I got to watch it again. I love that movie. I just need a guy who's going to be hyping me up when I need it. And I need a guy to bring me down, because sometimes I was that crazy lifter, and Josh will tell you where you needed to calm me down a little bit before I was ready to go. So I needed some guy to do that and do that. He's a good liar in the movie too. So if I need somebody like, man, that felt a little heavy, I need someone to lie to be like, no, that was easy, man. You know how it is. He goes, that was beautiful out there. Or, hey, how was that? No, that one's good. We're going up 10 kilos. Well, should we go up 5? I need someone to kind of a little bit of confidence in there. I know he would kind of be on that positive side for me at all times. I think the warm-up room, I think he would be loud, when I needed to be like, hey, we're using this rack. Get off it right now. I kind of like that taller guy presence back there, kind of circulating the room, kind of owning my space a little bit out there. So I like how he's just got a variety of stuff in that movie where it's hyped up, it's calm when he needs to be. He'll tell you what you need to hear. He'll back people off when he needs to. He'll tell you the truth. He'll tell you what you need to hear. So I like that little bit of all that stuff wrapped up.
Nice.
Wow, these
Nice.
are some great answers so far. Laura,
It
what do
really
you got?
is. Mine would be Hermie, from what was that movie? Hold on. It's a claymation.
The claymation.
Rudolph the
movie,
Red-Nosed Reindeer.
the
Yeah, he's
toy.
the dentist. He's the misfit dentist. He's the elf that wants to be a dentist.
Yes.
And I think he would be great because he's a misfit. And, powerlifters, let's face it, we're kind of misfits. We're like that kid in high school that, was so emo or something, right? So Hermie is kind of that misfit, but he goes on this epic, journey with Rudolph, and he supports him at the end of the day. He wins the day by, I think didn't he take out the tooth from the Bumble?
Yes.
and that's how-
Abominable Snowman. Yeah,
Yeah, the Abominable. And right now, looking at Hartman, he kind of looks like the Bumble.
he does.
I try.
But and if you can tame the Bumble and you can help out the Bumble,
All right.
you can handle me.
Uncle Jeremy, your Uncle Jeremy name is being retired. From now on, you will be referred to exclusively as
Nope.
Bumble.
I'm gonna put that in that box of stuff we're not gonna talk about ever again, Josh. We're gonna close the lid and we're gonna put that in there. Okay.
Or the lumberjack guy. Maybe he looks more like the lumberjack guy.
Oh, there was a lumberjack guy too.
Yeah.
No, I'm good with Bumble.
No. I'm gonna say no.
All right, Bumble.
Edit
Sorry.
that out.
You don't
You
get
just
to
had
You're,
to
choose.
say
you're not doing anything Monday and Tuesday. Edit it out. You're good.
I will
He just
not.
had a toothache, and once the tooth was pulled, he was a sweet.
It was
character.
amazing. Yeah. And he
Ruin my
helped everybody. He
street
took
credit.
the star and put it on top. I love those claymation movies. They're my go-to.
That's
All right. So we're going to move on to the new lifter tip. New lifter tip, the only equipment you're allowed to adjust while on the platform is your belt. Everything else, like wrist wraps or knee sleeves, must be adjusted while you're off the platform. Speaking's hard. Talking is hard. Practice accordingly. Only adjust your belt. Agree or disagree?
I agree.
No, you wrote this. So.
Yeah. No. So the reason we put this one, like we were at a meet
I
last
agree with
weekend.
myself.
We were at a meet last weekend and we saw a lifter actually time out because she walked onto the platform, started adjusting her wrist wraps, and they made her exit the platform because by the rule says you can only adjust your belt. And then she, timed out. And this was after being told during her first attempt and her second attempt not to do that anymore, but she didn't listen. So I think it's just important for lifters to know that that is a rule. That's not the referees being a jerk. That's following the rule book. So, practice accordingly means, do your wrist wraps and everything away from the bench. Don't lay down on the bench and then do your wrist wraps just because that's going to throw off your mojo on meet day. So try to do things how you have to do it at a competition just to get used to it. That's my thought.
Yeah, no, I think it's just like we said, it's just practice, especially when I got new lifters coming up. Even though I like, we're training in my garage right now too. I have them step off to the side. I said, hey, get everything adjusted out there. I said, you can adjust your belt when the last thing, but they have a certain order, with getting their belt at least on, getting their wrist wraps, put the chalk on. I have them get all the stuff that they need over there. And I'm like, I just give them the commands and everything. So that way they practice over and over again. If they screw it up again, I make them do it again. So it's just, especially like the last couple weeks, I think are real critical. Just all that little stuff on there. That way they have their breathing right, how they approach the bar. That way it's as methodical as it can be, especially with a new lifter, as you're kind of learning how they like to approach it or what they're going to do. You just got to give them some tips and everything. And I think it's just about practice. It is a rule, sometimes overlooked because like Josh said, they made a lifter, go off and do that. Josh, did she even have a coach at all that you knew of, or was
No,
she
she was
on her
there.
own?
She was there by herself.
See, that's why it's important. Everybody needs some type of a coach. I don't even care if you're getting ready to do your first meet. And I've had people that just come in like, they're starting to lift heavy, like they decide to do a meet like a month, before, it's coming up, whatever. They contact me, I'll take them through stuff. But it's always important to have a coach just to walk you through that little stuff, so that way you're available. Some people don't know, like, to bring the bar out and hold it longer, because if you're still moving, the referee doesn't have to say start. And some people just don't know all that little stuff. That's why it's important to have a coach, somebody to look over you and explain all that little stuff. And in this week's situation, that's another simple, critical thing that Josh is pointing out, a real life example that cost somebody maybe months of work.
Yep.
Mm,
True.
good point. There's a lot of little stuff too.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot.
And if you
Yeah.
practice it all, I mean, if it's stuff you're aware of and practice ahead of time, then on meet day, it's not even a thing you consider. You don't even think about it. It's what you do naturally. It's just when you aren't aware of those things and don't practice them and do things on your, to the beat of your own drum, you still have to follow the rules of performance, the referee commands, all those things. So just, I don't know, I just think you can't practice those things enough, and at least be willing to, be aware of them and learn from other people's mistakes. That's kind of where a lot of these new lifter tips come from, is, mistakes that we've seen over time. So
Yeah.
So-
Same thing if it goes for like deadlift. And I was pointing that out to a lifter just the other week, Josh. Like, they were like, "Oh," I'm like, "Hey, you're up in a minute." I wasn't timing them; they weren't getting ready for me. But I was just saying, "Hey, like, one of my loads was finished, and they were changing the weight." Said, "Hey, you're up in a minute," and they were kind of not screwing around, but just kind of off in their own little world. I said, "Bars loaded." I said, "You're up." And they're like, "Well, I'm not ready. Give me another minute." I said, "If you go to a meet," I said, "you lift when they tell you to lift. I don't care if it's 7 p.m. at night, 3 p.m. in the afternoon. It doesn't matter." I said, "I'm telling you to lift right now." Or I said, "I'm passing your spots." So they had to hurry up and lift and get situated. I said, "You cannot do that." I said, "You lift when you're told to lift." I said, that's the way the meet's going to handle. So if you're not paying attention, if you're still adjusting stuff, doing ammonia, whatever you need to do, like, that's got to be taken care of before you're ready to go out there.
I'm of the mindset of I want as few things to think about when I'm on the platform, except lift. I just want to focus on lifting the weight. So if I have to think about, oh man, I have to adjust my wrist perhaps, or I need to adjust my knee sleeves or even my belt, like that would add unnecessary stress to me. So that's why I like having all that taken care of before I even walk out on the platform. Even without even knowing that rule, I was like, I don't want to fidget with anything. I just want to walk out, move the weight, and walk back out and rest. So I've been trained well, Josh. But I think like as a new lifter, it's minimize the amount of things you have to think about on the platform. And that would include like making sure all of your equipment, all of your gear is already set to go. Even if you have to wait with it cinched in for like an extra 15, 20 seconds, I'd rather do that than waste time adjusting on the platform.
Yeah. Cool. So I think we're about a little over that 30-minute mark. So we're going to wrap it up here. But thank you guys both for coming on today. And I'm going to give you each a 30-second closing argument for why everybody should vote for you on Sunday. So randomly, blah, 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 blah. All right, we'll let Jeremy go first this time. Jeremy,
It just
30
goes back to
seconds.
the first two. It goes back to history and diversification. Each song has got a deep meaning to it, to myself, my other athletes, those around me. I got a reason behind every single one that goes down deep. I have to be careful about when I play those certain songs and when I need them or my other lifters need them if they're important to them. And I like a variety of music, man. Some things I need. Some days I like heavy metal days. Some days I like rap days. Some days I like 90s stuff. I mean, it's a little bit of everything, and I like it all.
Awesome. Jenna, your closing remarks.
As much as my playlist also has like sentimental meaning, but I'm going to focus more on, this is a playlist that I think anybody can, if any of these songs came on, nobody would have an issue lifting to any of these songs. And this playlist was developed from a solo training garage gym athlete. So sometimes you need to have a little bit of randomness to help you get through those long and like all by yourself training days. So that's where the inspiration of my list came from. What's going to help me push myself through my training in a 12 by 10 foot garage space. So if anybody out there is also in that groove of working out alone, knowing you just need something different, my playlist is for you folks, people who just need something different.
Awesome. So I'm going to, Jeremy, go.
January 29th and 30th. Okay. HPT Summit's coming up. So we're coming down to Indianapolis, Indiana. I have over 7 national champions coming to this, and we're having a group of lifters who are getting ready for the Arnold. So a bunch of people are flying in, staying with me. They're at an Airbnb house. And since I got all these great lifters coming in, I wanted to turn it into an open seminar. So I rented out a buddy's 10,000 square foot CrossFit gym right down the road from me. So we got all of our lifters training in first. We're holding a seminar January 29th and 30th up here in Indianapolis after that. I've got lifters from all over the U.S. coming in. We got Josh. I got Irvin Gaynor out of retirement.
No kidding.
I got Irvin Gaynor. He's not competing. I got him 10-time national champion, one of the greatest lightweights of all time that we've ever produced in the United States. I got Irvin to come out. He only lives an hour away, and convinced him, took a couple phone calls and some emails and some reminders and some pictures sent. And I got him to come out, share his knowledge. I got some equip people coming in. I got some masters people coming in, American record holders, world record holders. But yeah, it's just, I said, hey, I got all these great people coming in. I said, we need to share all this knowledge. So usually when you go to a seminar, you have one or two people that are headlining it, you hear from them. I said, well, now looking at how many people we've got, I said, looking at the list as it keeps growing, I said, I got over 12 national champions coming in here one way or another. And we looked at it, we've got over 30 national titles. Irvin Gaynor makes up 10 of those. Okay. Yeah, several world records. We looked at how we've got over 50 American records that are from all these people coming in, several international lifters too. So I'm just kind of excited that all these people wanted to come in and train and get ready for the Arnold or Nationals. And then I was like, you know what? I got all these. It'd be stupid not to hold something for everybody else to learn from all these lifters to get coached by. So I'm kind of excited about the 29th and 30th up here in Indianapolis, Indiana, with getting, like I said, having all of us training and then run a seminar afterwards. Should be a real good time. So if any of your listeners or anybody wants to come on up, just hit me up afterwards. You'll see some social media posts here in the next couple of days.
Where do you have more information online anywhere that people can look up, or just hit you up on Instagram or?
Hit me up on social media, but I'm going to be putting stuff out here with a sign up form and some more serious information about some details and stuff the next couple of days here. It's just these things all kind of came together and I was like, I'm doing it.
Okay.
So where can people find you?
I was just going to ask you again. So that was the cue for you to say where people can find you.
I know. Yeah, find me at Hartman Performance Trainings. Look on all the social media stuff on there. You'll find my contact information, hartmanpt1@gmail.com. But just look me up, contact me up. We'd love to have you guys out here. This is going to be really something special.
Awesome. That's cool.
Nice. If you need a sports psychology expert to speak at this seminar, that's my gig. Jeremy.
Okay. We might have to talk when we get off the phone then, Jenna.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, that does it for episode 72. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at PL Ballads Podcast. And don't forget the championship voting round is on Sunday. Jenna versus Jeremy. We'll find out who wins the A7 $50 gift card. We hope everybody listening has a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and we will talk to you guys next week. Later.
Howdy ho.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode of the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast, please remember to subscribe and share it with your friends.